Hey guys, welcome back to Vincefield Custom. So today I'm sharing with you a Bowen Designs Iceman statue that I converted into the X Factor version for someone. And really cool, fun project. It's always nice to once in a while get back into the 1/6 scale statues because everything I've been doing lately is around 1/4 or even 1/3. So it's fun to do these little ones. Back in the day they weren't really considered little because they were like the biggest statues out there. But now I guess you could say they're pretty much the little statues now. But pretty cool statue. So you saw in the beginning of the video what it looked like, and there's a couple things here and there that were problems with it. Nothing major, but I think in the end it worked out pretty cool. So we'll get in a little bit closer and I'll probably break down exactly what I did. You can pretty much see in the beginning he's just all translucent resin, and translucent resin is very hard to work with in terms of customizing. Not really in terms of sculpting onto or painting, because you could get away with that with primers and stuff, but the problem is when you start drumming into it and you try to break pieces, it can shatter. So if you work in the cold with translucent resin, it becomes brittle. Like, if something gets really cold, like a clear plastic, and you try to Dremel or break it or do something, it can almost shatter in a couple little pieces. Not really shatter like a glass or something like that. It just will kind of break up in pieces, whereas polystone resin really doesn't do it that much, but it still will with a little bit of force. Now, because it's the summertime and I worked on him, there's another problem where in the garage it gets like, I don't know, on hot days it gets up to about 100 degrees in that garage I work in. So when you Dremel into it, you're almost like kind of melting the translucent resin, because it's like, it basically is like a plastic, so that becomes part of the problem. So what I tried to do in the beginning is I tried to Dremel in the X going around his muscles and stuff, and the problem was, as I was using my Dremel tool, it was just kind of like, melting the item, and it wasn't really creating like a dust there. All the pieces around it were just kind of caking together, and it wasn't really coming apart. So if you ever have a piece of plastic and you try to drill through it, or a Dremel tool, it just kind of melts and it kind of glops together. So that was what was happening. So basically what I had to do is I rolled out Aves really thin, and I cut out strips, and then I put the strips of Aves around it. So I kind of just worked out the X. I pushed it into the muscles as best as I could. I rolled down, piece down here. I rolled around the boots. I rolled around here, and I did all the back as well. So once the X was done and everything was looking good, I had to sculpt the belt, because the guy that I did this for, he didn't send me the one that already had the belt on him. And when I was working on it, I said, "You want me to sculpt the belt?" And he was like, "No, he doesn't have a belt." I go, "Well, all the pictures you sent me has a belt." He's like, "Oh crap, I didn't realize." So so doing this version of X Factor Iceman, I had to resculpt the belt. So it actually wasn't that bad. What I did is I rolled out Aves and I wrapped it around his waist, and then I did the back part first, and I let that cure for a day, and I sanded it down, and then I did this next part, and I let that cure for a day, and I sanded that down, and then I did the circle, I let that cure, sanded it down, and then I did these two little pieces on there. So I did piece by piece by piece each day, so it's kind of like layering, and that's how I worked out the belt. I think it was the best way I could do it, because I'm working on a lot of projects at once anyway, so it's always good to do a little something, let it cure, and move on to something else. So that's how I worked that out. And then I sculpted a hair from scratch. Now I really tried hard to mimic the hair that was in the pictures, but the problem was the pictures were very blurry, so I kind of had to do my own little take on it. So I gave him a little bit of a wave, some of that old school hair look, and then after that it was just straight up paint up. So it's Garage Kit Colors Flesh Tones. The blue, now in the pics he sent me, the blue is a very grayish, almost whitish blue, and I tried mimicking that color as best as I could, but I figured, you know what, let's not go too light blue, because then it'll just look really weird, and I kind of wanted to find a nice middle ground blue. So this is like a very sky blue almost, and I threw a lot of interference blue on it as well. And then once that was all done, I did the white. So the white is a Createx Wicked White, and then I did interference blue over that. And then once all that was done, it was a matter of just painting up the metallic belt. And the hair is all actually hand painted. I didn't do any airbrushing with the hair. I kind of did a lot of paint strokes on there, and I did a lot of blending, so I wanted to really make it stand out a little bit. Archer Fine Transfer Eyes. And then that's pretty much it. Straightforward custom. It wasn't, in terms of chopping, wasn't the problem. It was just sculpting on. So there's just a lot of trying to make sure I could keep these muscles and chest muscles around in here, and as well as the back as well, without like just wrapping AVES around it and then letting it sit. You got to kind of push that AVES in there to keep all that muscle structure, even though it's a thin layer. So that's pretty much what I did, and pretty cool. So it's like I say, it's always fun to do these old school characters, at least the old school outfits. And I think this will look really good with the early X-Men statues, you know, with all the X's on them, and or if you're building up the X Factor setup of X-Men. So this is just show you can take a clear resin statue and you can bring it to life with some flesh tone. Just took a lot of primer though. I wanted to make sure I used Duplicolor filler primer on it because I really wanted to make sure that, you know, if you did a light thing of primer and paint, you can almost put a light behind him and maybe see through it. So there's a lot of primer on him just to make sure. But there you go. That is X Factor Iceman. Hopefully you guys liked the way he came out. Had a lot of fun. And thanks for watching. We'll be back with some more videos.